It's turned into a solid wide receiver too, it seems like. The return of DeAndre Hopkins, 2 touchdowns on Monday Night Football for the Kansas City Chiefs. And now, the first week of the year, or first week as a Chief, he only had 2 catches. We're kind of like, man, what's going on? The usage. And then we got Andy Reid saying, you know what? He's going to play that role. He's going to play that Rashee Rice role. He's going to play that Juju Smith-Schuster role. And sure as shit, we saw it on Monday night and had a really good throwback performance for DeAndre Hopkins. Mahomes got banged up a little bit, was still out there slinging it to D-Hop. And we see this little blend now of like D-Hop and Kelsey that looks like it might be unstoppable. When you get D-Hop downfield, catching the ball between 3 defenders like D-Hop in 2016, we're looking at this thing like, man, this could be really special, man. I think most people were either giving up on D-Hop and dropped him, or maybe you thought he was a flex at best, or he was on your bench. He's a wide receiver too the rest of the way, ain't he?
Yeah, I would say he's right around there for sure. We know how good Patrick Mahomes is. He played really well. One thing that I will say is that it is Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay has given up a lot of points to opposing wide receivers, tight ends. But when you look at this, it's just that for as much as a guy like Xavier Worthy that you kind of were hoping he'd have a breakout, he hasn't done enough to warrant really being a breakout candidate. And like this game was kind of, there was potential that a breakout was starting to happen, but now, 2 targets, 0 catches, and he had that 1 catch in the very, very beginning of the game where he just stepped down. You got to come down with that
rookie mistake.
Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, I mean, I could look at this offense and you got these 2 guys, these 2 veteran players that Patrick Mahomes just trusts, and they understand how to play the game and know what Patrick Mahomes is looking for when he needs it. They're able to look at the zones and just get open in the zones. I mean, I don't see why he couldn't be a wide receiver 2 going forward. And also the other thing too is that DeAndre Hopkins is a bigger wide receiver, and he's been throughout his career a pretty solid red zone target, which I think this offense kind of needs right now. They need that red zone threat as a wide receiver, and he offers that. So yeah, I mean, I don't see why he couldn't be a wide receiver 2 going forward in fantasy football in this offense.
It's weird because at first when we came into the season, I was like, DeAndre Hopkins. It was all the MCL stuff too. Like I was like, it's a name. I was kind of thinking,
and he's playing on the Titans.
It was bad too. Like, and I thought there was some optimism, like with Levis. Like, even though that didn't pan out, I was thinking like, oh, maybe he'll provide flex value. This is a brand new territory for Dion.
Yeah.
This is.
If we went back to the beginning of the season, we were like, all right, Rashee Rice is out for season, but D-Hop is on the Chiefs. I mean, D-Hop would have gone.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been a top 15 receiver.
Would have gone at least I would say 3rd round probably is where he would end up going. So,
but that's the value. Like, I think anybody that's watching, like, don't think this was a one-off. And even though I know you talked about it, like this was a good matchup, maybe we're not getting 8 for 86 with 2 touchdowns every week, but like, this is a player who's probably going to see somewhere between 5 to 8 catches almost every game. I was really excited about Juju in this role, and it kind of reminded me of that, like high-end wide receiver 3, but D-Hop is better than Juju Smith. And I feel like that's going to elevate his ceiling on a weekly basis. So I think the one caveat I would say here is like when Juju gets back, when Pacheco gets back, when all the weapons are there for this team, maybe the ceiling's a little bit lower, but I think every week moving forward, I think
he'll be
he's got to go in your lineup weekly.
Because the other thing too is I don't think Kelsey saw 16 targets in this game. I don't think Kelsey's going to see 16 targets every single game. I still think Kelsey is going to be a 1A, 1B type of situation, though, with him and DeAndre Hopkins, and they'll be able to produce as long as they can stay healthy, too.
I don't know. Since Rashee Rice has been out, Kelsey has been a target hog.
He has.
I mean, double-digit targets in 3 out of 4 games since Rashee Rice has gone down. I'm like, maybe he's back. Like, because I think there's a path for, like, the big conversation early on was like, yo, is Kelsey cooked? He's 35. Like, is he cooked? Is he washed? And I think, like, over these last couple of weeks, he's kind of proven like, yo, I'm back. I'm a big part of this offense. I ain't never left. The one thing we're not seeing out of him is like the volumes touchdown wise, but the yardage is there. Like, I don't know, is like Trey McBride. Anybody else? Evan Ingram, maybe Brock
I
Bowers,
I want to
maybe.
say Brock. No, I mean he's right there with him. Like obviously we've seen Kelsey take this once Rasheed Rice. I think if Rasheed Rice was healthy right now, right, I still think that Rasheed Rice would be probably going on the tear that he was early in the season. But once that injury happened, I definitely think that like now Kelsey has turned from like this more mid to back end tight end one to now, one of the elite tight end ones in fantasy football. And I still think Trey McBride's there. The one thing that I'll say for Kelsey compared to like those other guys is just, we even saw with Kyle Pitts where he had like the 40-yard touchdown catch. I don't think that Kelsey has that in his repertoire anymore where he's going to have these long touchdown catches. A lot of his stuff last night, if you're watching, was close to the line of scrimmage, low A dot kind of stuff, just over the middle, keeping the chains moving. I think that'll continue to be that kind of guy, and he'll probably be a little bit more valuable in full point PPR formats but we've seen it. It's been a couple of weeks now where they try this. They've done this a lot with Kelsey, the little shovel pass around the goal line to try to get him in there. And it just hasn't happened. Even last night, you saw it where he was able to take Levante David and he had to commit to Kelsey at the goal line, which opened up the back for DeAndre Hopkins, which is just very good play design. But like you'll see stuff with that with Kelsey where I think the touchdowns will kind of come. I just think he belongs in that tier though with those other guys for sure going forward.
He's elite, and I think the discussions there for tight end one. I think obviously with this offense,
obviously if he sees 16 targets, it's probably going to be.
He's seeing 16 and 12. Like I just think anywhere double digit wise, we know Kelsey is elite, and I think the one thing that like if it comes the touchdowns come, it's a wrap. And whoever bought low on him, you did a good job this during the season if you were able to snag Kelsey away. But I think the one caveat here is like this the D-Hop ascension, this Travis Kelsey looking back to normal. I think a couple weeks ago, both you and I were like, Mahomes, are you back? Are you a fade? It's time to talk about it now. Second half of the year, like, where do we put Mahomes? They've already had their bye. I don't know if you can go buy low on a Mahomes anymore, but like, it's only up for him here with this cast now. He's back in the QB1 conversation, right?
I would, but I would say more of back end QB1. And the reason why is just because there's some elite quarterbacks. I mean, Jalen Hurts is playing out of his mind right now. Like the dude's been balling out. Josh Allen, elite. Jaden Daniels, we know how good he is. Even Kyler, like he has his moments. He was bad this weekend, but the week prior, he's good. And he just has that rushing upside. So I would say more of like even Joe Burrow. I mean, this week threw for 5 passing touchdowns. It just comes down to like, is this team going to, kind of be like this offense? Because it wasn't until like later in the game that this offense really started to do that well. Like in the beginning of the game, it was what 3.
But he's been consistent though. Like
he's been consistent, but it hasn't been
Dak obviously on IR. But like you start getting to the back end of that, like you talked Kyler, I'd rather have Mahomes than Kyler.
No, I'd rather have Kyler.
Not give me Mahomes. Like I just feel like the floor, like you're getting 250 and 2 touchdowns. It's just, are we getting those upside games? And I think we're going to see more of that now. With a guy like
I want to say last week he didn't even throw for a touchdown. Like I just think that we're kind of overreacting to one game against Tampa Bay.
But you get a guy like Kyler Murray though. What did Kyler do this weekend against the Bears? He didn't do shit.
Yeah, but Kyler I want to say it was last week or 2 weeks ago, had a 40-yard touchdown run. Patrick Mahomes can't do that. Like there's only a few.
Pat Mahomes can have a 40-yard touchdown. He can have a 20, 30-yard touchdown run.
He's not going to do that like Kyler is. But the other thing is,
Kyler will also had a game where he won't throw for 200 yards.
I understand that completely. But I think that Patrick Mahomes belongs in the back tier for the one reason. Now, if he's going to be throwing, 3 touchdown passes every single game, which he could potentially do for sure. Everything in the beginning of the season hasn't really led us to, and maybe DeAndre Hopkins is kind of like the key that unlocks this offense a little bit. We'll see. I still think that but like a guy, and I'm going to keep coming back to him because he just had 17 points and he threw for 200 passing yards and threw 2 interceptions, but he had basically 100 rushing yards, and that's Drake May. I mean, why is Drake May not in back end QB1 conversation then? Like those are the kind of quarterbacks I want personally. I want the guys who are running the football. I think Patrick Mahomes belongs in the back end to mid QB1 range, sure, he can be in that conversation, but he's not an elite quarterback one, in my opinion.
He's not an elite quarterback one, but he's back in the circle of trust. I'll take him over CJ Stroud, put it that way. Like, I'm taking him over CJ Stroud over Kyler. I think he's right back there in the mid-tier. Like, right around Burrow territory is where I got
CJ Stroud's offensive line is also in shambles right now.
Yeah.
That offensive line is